All right, so we want to just kind of dive right in. Like I said, I've already read the book. It was gifted to me by Michael a while back, a few months back. And I read the book. I actually probably read it, reread several sections many times, and took notes. And so my attempt here is to just go through the book, expose you to some of the notes and highlights that I took, and uh, and like I said, develop a discussion around that. Uh, the idea and is not to keep these videos very long and not to make them very formal, because in the end, I want them to be very practical for you. The hope for these videos are that maybe you can um, either, if you don't sort of follow along, you can at least put them in the background of your phone, let them run, and then listen to them, and hopefully provide some inspiration as the days go by and the years go by, the year goes by. And so that's my attempt here. I'm gonna kind of start with an intro to the book. So the book is written by Michael Mcfall. He's the co-founder of Big B Coffee, a business that's been around for, I believe, about 25 years now. And so in this book, he pretty much details the hard lessons of starting a business and how do you take it from, a concept to cash flow. And I think that the title is really appropriate. It's called Grind. Obviously, it's a coffee company, makes a lot of sense. I love the graphic of AM versus PM. Coffee is obviously morning business. In the morning, you got to be up and about. So it's been a pretty tough journey, as Mike will explain, but he provides a lot of great insights that could be taken to any business that you're involved in. He makes a point to be very straightforward, as you can see in the title of the book. No BS here. Um, I wanted to mention that it was actually um, endorsed by quite a few different people in the all kinds of industry, the food industry, and it looks like universities and so on and so forth. I encourage you to get a copy of the book, although the purpose of this is not necessarily as some kind of endorsement, or there's really more of educational. But I do think having your own copy is huge, and I want to thank Michael for allowing us to provide his book as sort of the background to this conversation we're starting. But I think the book is great to have, and it's probably a great book to reread. It reminds you that starting a business is not for everybody, and it's not simple. Anyway, advanced praise is some of the first pages. Some of the people you can read about it. Some pretty um, well-known people have endorsed and gave him some great appreciation. As you can see, he dedicated it to me a while back. Anyway, here's kind of an overview of the book. There's 5 chapters, and each chapter has many different sections. And my attempt is not necessarily to cover all of the sections, but um, and each video will probably kind of be longer, shorter, depending on the section. I'm not going to go into the forward, but it's a really cool read by one of the executives, former executive from Subway, Lisa Oak, wrote a really nice forward for Mike in his book. And actually, she works for Big B Coffee now, but you could read all the nice things she has to say about Michael. All right, so let's jump in. The first chapter is called Due Diligence. And so I'm going to kind of highlight the highlights that I have. And so Mike makes a very good point here in the beginning that, you know, um, starting a business is the great equalizer. It really doesn't search for creed. There's no religious preference, there's no sexual orientation, there's no height or gender. Basically, it's an equal playing ground. It doesn't favor any one of those, or does it stand against. Really, anybody um, could get into business, and it could be forgiving or non-forgiving. It doesn't matter. It's really about how much effort you put into it and the skill you put. That's kind of what Mike makes a point here. So it's the great equalizer, as he puts it. All right, so that's kind of the beginning of the chapter here. So some of the things that I highlighted is he makes a point that the biggest barrier to entry is probably yourself, and the biggest barrier at the beginning is also yourself. And many people ignore that factor. They tend to blame it on something else, some outside factor, instead of maybe looking at themselves and assess themselves and understand um, what your strengths and weaknesses are. So he makes a point that now that you've kind of dove into this entrepreneurial niche, not many people um, get to do that or have the courage to do it. So congratulations to you, but just know that you're in for some obstacles along the way, some challenges to put it mildly. Um, I think he also discusses that there's some misconceptions about what it means to own a business. Um, and he says that a lot of people start off very, very optimistic. He says that the entrepreneurs are some of the most optimistic people he's ever met. And it's great because you need that as a startup. You need that positive attitude at the beginning. And then he goes on to say, well, that attitude has to continue even after you begin the business. A lot of people start with this, um, very enthusiastic attitude, and then it kind of dies down as the time goes by, as they run into issues and problems. Um, so I think that's what he's gonna basically discuss in this first chapter.